Hi everybody, welcome and welcome back. My name is Kimiko Sumi, and today I am here to do a video about my the reason why my stomach. I know y'all probably have noticed that about my stomach, why it's so big, and um and why, let me drink some of this water quick. Hold on, real quick. That's actually vinegar and water. Yeah. I'm still on my weight loss journey. But anyway, y'all, I want to talk about my stomach real quick and how my stomach got so big in this lifetime. Um First of all, I have never had a baby in this lifetime, but it looks like I have had children, many children, because my stomach is so fat and so big. And I will give the backstory on that. First of all, I have struggled with my weight ever since I've been 9 years old. And off and on, I've been up and down on the scale ever since I've been 9 years old. I've been fat, skinny, medium, everything, y'all. Okay? So basically, the reason why my stomach is so big and fat, and it extends itself a lot, and it's very like protruding. It protrudes. I have a protruding belly because of stress in this lifetime. Now, I have always struggled. No, I ain't gonna say I've always struggled. Well, all throughout my adult life, I've struggled to keep a place to stay of my own. And I actually was going to a mental health clinic here in Dallas, Texas, years ago, and in order to have my own apartment. And when I first got my own apartment, I had a case manager, and this is for people with mental illness, by the way. They will give you free apartments if you had a mental illness and you were struggling to keep a place to stay. So they will give you an apartment after a while of waiting and stuff, and then you finally could get your own apartment after a little while of waiting. So I finally got my own apartment, and I got a case manager, and from jump, I didn't like her. No. And I actually told her from jump that I didn't really like her. Now, you could say, well, that's mean or whatever, but I did apologize to her. You know, she tried to intimidate me. First of all, she was, okay, it was at my mother's house, and I told her this because my mother she also had her own apartment through them as well, and we had an apartment right in front of each other. So, first time I saw her, she was my mother's case manager too, by the way. And the first time I saw her, I just knew I didn't like her. I didn't like her vibes. I didn't like her energy, and I told her that. I admitted that. And then my mom, she quickly, said, stop. No, don't tell her that, and she got on me about it. And then, of course, the case manager was looking very satisfied, and she had like a little, like, smirk on her face, like, yeah, you checked her for me, da 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 da. And, I kind of felt bad for her a little bit after, and I actually apologized. She actually, when I came to the clinic where she worked at, like her office, she pulled me in a room, like by myself, alone, and confronted me about it, okay? And then I apologized because honestly, I really wasn't that apologetic about it, but I went ahead and did it because I didn't want to lose my apartment. I didn't want it to like escalate. So to de-escalate the situation and not have drama with her, I apologized to start off on a new slate, a better slate. Now, she was giving me this lecture and all sorts of stuff, and and I was just kind of like, okay, I apologize. I was kind of like being passive, not really passive, but just doing my best to not make any more waves with her. But I could tell she was still very angry about that because she decided to call me into her office like she was a principal or something, or she was a boss or something like that, even though she was just a case manager. So ever since that point, after I apologized to her, I really humbled myself and gave her an apology, even though honestly, I didn't really mean it that much. I really didn't. But anyway, from then on, she would antagonize me. She would call me up whenever she wanted to. She would just show up at my house. She would show up at my mother's house unexpected. She would invite herself over quite often. And when she would come over for visits, sometimes she would stay for 2 hours running her mouth, making little racial, stereotypical, saying little stereotypical things that people relate to black women, because I don't really think she likes black women. Okay? I don't really think she likes black people, period. And I'm not going to tell you what race she is. I'm just going to say that she's not black. And I think you didn't figure that out by now. But anyway, it wasn't a racial issue with her. It really wasn't from my perspective. But it seemed like it was deeper than that with her, because she was throwing out all types of stereotypical comments that would be directed at a black woman. So, from then on, she would just pick at me, and I was so afraid of becoming homeless because I thought she was going to get so petty and revengeful that she was going to do something really just really, really petty to where I would snap. So I would just be passive about her comments and not really call her out. And this went on for 8 months, where she would just antagonize me, randomly show up, call me, and, do different things. She would do little sneaky things. She would just do little petty things, stay at my house and visit with me for 2 hours, talking about absolutely nothing. And of course, taking shots at me, personal shots that were based on stereotypes. Okay. Anyway, but she would do things like that, sit on my couch for 2 hours and talk and force conversations on me. That's one reason why y'all see me talking about how much I hate forced conversations. And it has a lot to do with her, because I felt like I was being forced to open up to somebody I didn't trust and I didn't really care for. Okay? Because I still didn't like her. Honestly, in the back of my mind, I didn't like her, but I kept it in my subconscious or in the back of my mind just not to cause friction and just simply just stay, on focus and not make any waves, so I could keep a place to stay. Anyway, this went on, and she would often do this, and then she would call me down to the office, make me get up and spend my money to come down to the office physically to see her, to complete paperwork that she could have just told me to do within that 2 hour frame that she was at my house calling me referring to me as stereotypical names, right? So it would get on my nerves, kind of, but I never really would express it. I would never really acknowledge how I was very angry about her company and her little petty bullshit that she would do to me, and her little nitpicking and shit that she would do, right? So, 8 months went on, and guess what, y'all? I put on about 60 to 80 pounds on her caseload. She was actually the longest caseworker aside from one that I actually had, okay? It was 8 months of hell, okay, for me. This is somebody who would gang up on me with other case managers. I mean, they pretty much weren't shit anyway. The people from that little clinic, they weren't about shit. And like I said in another video, usually mental health professionals, they ain't about shit. You can't trust them no way. They need professional help themselves, actually, by the way. Okay, that's another topic for another day, though. But anyway, so, she would gang up on me with other, case managers, and after that 8 months was over, she just did so many things, y'all. I could go into detail, but I'm going to make it short. Anyway, she harassed me so much on her caseload that I gained 60 to 80 pounds within 8 months. And when I finally began to actually be able to release the weight on my own, when I finally got to my goal weight of 151 pounds back in August of 2015, 151 pounds. No, yeah, 100. I was 151 pounds in August of 2015 before I took a trip with my mother to Los Angeles, California. For the first, well, no, that wasn't the first time. That was the second time I had ever been. And By that time, when I finally made it to my goal weight, guess what I found out and realized? I was stuck with a stomach, a protruding belly. Okay? At the time, I didn't know that it was that bad, really. I didn't pay attention to it that much. But I was kind of like, dang, I kind of, I ain't never had no fat stomach ever in my life. I've had weight problems throughout my life, but my stomach was snapped back, and I thought it never even occurred to me that it was just gonna stay fat. Okay, so basically, I have learned that it's visceral fat. It's from cortisol, stress, being stressed out, and I didn't have it before her, but I had it after her, and after the weight loss. I was being somebody's mental punching bag, okay? And I didn't really realize it. I didn't realize how much stress I was under, okay? I would literally be afraid to meet with her because I was afraid that I was going to let her have it. I had to put stuff in the back of my mind and act like she wasn't doing what she was doing just so I would not snap and lose my place to stay. So this is someone who is a narcissist. She's controlling. Okay, she's very she's very unhappy. She's very depressed. She has a weight problem herself, by the way. And this is the same person who asked me for weight loss help when I finally got close to my goal. Believe it or not. Okay, go figure. The same person that left me, that made me gain the most, got me. I had another thing too. I had under her caseload, I became the biggest weight I had ever been in my entire life. And by the time I got all that weight off of me in August of 2015, I was stuck with a belly like I had been pregnant for 9 months. As you can see in my pictures. I mean, it was not that noticeable at first. Like, I guess because I don't know, but it just, I don't know. It's like, it's just, my stomach is still fat to this day. Yeah, like I just mentioned. I pretty much mentioned that. But, it's just so much stress that I had to deal with. Cortisol fat and the visceral fat that I've been left with. And I now realize it was because I was stressed out. And when I finally did leave that little clinic or whatever that I got my free apartment from and just abandoned it because the caseworkers were abusive anyway. They were very abusive mentally. They did the exact opposite of what their job was help, which was help. They hindered. They made my life more traumatic. I was afraid. Every time I would be very afraid and scared and stressed out every time I knew that it was time for me to have to meet with one of them, because most of them were not black and they were women, and I could tell they had racial issues, okay? Major racial issues, but I would never really call them to the carpet about it. I would never really confront them with what I knew about them, what I could tell about them, okay? But all I know is that my stomach is fat because of stress. I found that out years ago, but that's why. Because this person really, really screwed with my head a lot. And she wasn't the only one either. I'm going to be fair. She wasn't the only one there. Most of them screwed with the patients, period. And they've been known to take money. They've even been known to sleep with the patients. I've seen one be high at work. She came to my house high on weed, okay? Now, that particular caseworker, she didn't do anything to me, but she also had an issue. That the caseworker that had came to my house smelled like weed. She actually had the nerve to try to tell me, how to date or something like that. I wouldn't listen to her. It went in one ear and out the other because she was unprofessional anyway. She did get fired shortly after, but I mean, those people, it's wild. I think back, I be thinking about it just about every day. I'm reminded of all of that torture and abuse, and it wasn't just people of different of outside the black race. There were black people and black women in particular who would bully me too, and other patients, clients, or what they would call it. You know what I'm saying? They were never really nice. And usually people in the mental health field, they're not really kind. They don't too much care about anybody's feelings. They're there for that money, and they're also there for an ego boost as well. They like feeling like they're better than people. Okay? Like they have, a lot of those type of people have insecurities, major insecurities, which is why they got in those fields. And they take pride in their jobs because they know they can throw their weight around with people who, need them and really cannot help. Let me see something right quick. And they really cannot help their circumstances because they have mental illnesses, and they don't really want to speak their mind because they're afraid too that they might have gotten written up like they were on a job. I mean, they would work them people. They worked me hard. It was like I had a job. I might as well have gotten a job. That's why I abandoned that apartment. I left it behind. Okay? And I never looked back either. And you know what? I actually was able to have a fresher breath air when I abandoned that apartment and left Dallas for Los Angeles, California. So, I'm just thinking back. I'm just looking back and thinking about old memories and stuff like that, bad memories, of just feeling afraid for my life and fear. And back then I had social anxiety too, so it was more like fight or flight. It's either you fight back, which is not an option, or flight. So I got up, I literally took a flight out of town because it was so many people I wanted to get away from anyway. It was so many things that I was trying to run from. But you know what I will say? Don't run from your problems. Try to face them. Sometimes it's necessary, but many times they can be solved by being assertive. And that's a lesson that I've learned over the years. Don't be passive and don't be aggressive. Don't be passive aggressive. Just be assertive, okay? Now, you can be some of those things at times. It depends. I believe in matching energy, though. Absolutely. But if you need to convey a message to somebody about disrespecting you, be assertive about it. Don't run away. Don't shy away from it because you're afraid. Just speak to them. Simply speak to them. Learn how to be assertive. And that's one of my major lessons of my life that I finally realized. It's about knowing how to communicate your needs and your boundaries and what you're not going to tolerate. Because I could go one way or the other years ago. Now I can have a middle ground with people. And, I do contribute that to my Buddhist practice as well. As I've said in so many videos, I'm a practitioner of Nichiren Buddhism. And y'all probably realize that by now that I am a Buddhist. But I just kind of want to give a little memory, and a little bit of encouragement. Don't run from your problems, face them. And then sometimes you probably should run if it's not a favorable situation and you don't see any benefit in it. I do think I did the right thing at that time. I think it was perfect timing for me to do what I did, by the way. But in retrospect, there should have been plenty of times where I should have stood my ground with certain people. Not even just them, but people in general. Okay? Like, you got to learn how to communicate. And that's something that I'm learning. So, basically, this is my video, y'all. I made a second video of today. This is my second video. And I hope y'all liked it and got something out of it. And I hope you like, comment, subscribe, share my video, hit the notification bell. And I will see y'all in another video, my lotus flowers. Once again, peace. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, and welcome to my page, my upcoming lotus flowers, my future lotus flowers. I welcome you to my page. And I hope you like it and enjoy. And I hope y'all have a great rest of the day. Bye. Peace. I'm out.